don't do it by yourself. And when I say do it by yourself, I mean leading the club by yourself. Lean on other people because things are going to happen and you may not be able to go out. Like you might get injured and you can't go out for the next week or month, depending on what's happening. And so you have to find those people you can lean on that can help lead the rucks for you when you can't make it.
Welcome to the Rucker's Edge podcast, a show all about rucking that is designed to help you develop a rucking routine, lose weight, and ultimately gain your strength and energy back. Whether you're an office worker with lower back pain, a fitness first-timer, or a new parent trying to get back to your pre-kids weight, this is the show for you. I'm your host, Spencer, and today I sit down with Chad Haggerty, the founder of West Orange Ruckers. We talk about how a rucking routine that developed during COVID turned into a thriving ruck club. We dive into what it takes to start a local ruck club, how ruck clubs can give back to the community, and why the rucking mindset goes far beyond fitness. From community outreach to reflective rucks, inspired by Michael Easter's 2% mindset, this conversation is all about finding purpose through rucking. Chad also provides practical advice for anyone looking to start their own ruck club. After the show, check out our show notes at theruckersedge.com. All right, here's my conversation with Chad Haggerty. Chad, welcome to the Rucker's Edge podcast. It's really good to have you here.
Thanks, man. It's definitely a pleasure to be here.
So you just mentioned before we hit record just now, you went on a ruck this morning. I'm curious, what patch are you rocking right now?
The patch that I'm rocking, let's see, right now we made a Halloween patch last year where if you've seen our patch, it has like an alligator on it. And for Halloween last year, we did a special patch where if you came out in October anytime that you got this one that's like a glow-in-the-dark skeleton of an alligator. So it's pretty much just the dead version of our local patch. Yeah.
I saw that online a couple of weeks back, and I was hoping you were going to say that one. That's really cool. Of all the rucking clubs, I think that y'all's patch or y'all's logo might be the coolest with the gator on the front with the Go Ruck logo in the background. That's pretty cool.
I was super stoked when we got that.
So you're the co-founder of the West Orange Ruckers, and I want to talk about that here in a little bit, but I'm curious, when did you start rucking and what got you into it?
I started rucking probably 2019. I was doing the Savage race down here in Florida. And back then it was just the same location that they do it twice a year. And then they go off into other parts of the United States. And so after a while, I think I started with doing Savage Race probably when they first, like maybe the first or second year that they did it. So for lack of a better term, I was getting kind of bored with their, with the course or the location. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't anything with them. I was just like, I want to do something a little bit different. And so I started seeing that they were promoting a ruck division of Savage Race. And at the time, I had no clue about it. I'm an Army brat, but me personally, I don't have any kind of military experience. Mm-hmm. So rucking was something completely foreign to me. And then it said, oh, well, you just put on a backpack and you put some weight in it and then you just go for a walk. And I was like, oh, I could do the Savage Race and I can walk this thing. I was like, absolutely. Because my knees are absolutely shot. I have arthritis throughout both of my knees. So kind of running sucks. But I was like, oh, okay, so I can walk this. Let me try this out. And then I went online and it gave you a link to the Go Ruck website. And, after the first sticker shock of the rucks and the weights and everything, they had this, they had one of those deals going on. I think it was probably like a Christmas in July sale or something. And I was like, well, this is definitely a good time for me to do it. And I had a little bit of expendable cash at the time. So I was like, let's try it.
Yeah.
So fast forward, 6 months, or so or actually a little bit longer when COVID hit. And I started going out rucking into the national park or the state park that we have down the street. It's like 3 miles away from me. So just started rucking like crazy, just by myself. And it was a really cool way to kind of clear my head.
Mm-hmm.
So, work at the time was completely sucked, and I was a brand new father. And, we all have those kind of stresses of, what the hell are we doing as
Absolutely.
parents?
Yeah.
And I just needed to, it was COVID at the time. I didn't have my my core friends to go see or to go talk about anything. And I was kind of, you have your spouse, you have my wife, but like I needed somebody to kind of like talk about my stresses too. And COVID kind of put a stop to that for a little bit. um so I was going out in nature, just going out on a 5 mile ruck through the hills just by myself, and just clearing my head, and kind of mentally got back to, a good place. And so I kind of wanted to share that with other people once we were allowed, I
Yeah.
guess, quote unquote, allowed to start hanging out with other people in public.
Right.
So,
So was that when
yeah.
you started West Orange Ruckers?
No, I I pondered the idea of starting a ruck club.
Mm-hmm.
I started, seeing what, other than buying, a bag and, some weights. So I was trying to see what Go Ruck was really all about. I kind of didn't really get into the Go Ruck community at first. And then I started seeing, oh, well, there's other people, there's other clubs that do this kind of thing. And so I started wanting to join a club. I was like, hey, there's a thing called the Central Florida Ruckers, and you're on Facebook. And so I joined up, but then there was nothing going on. It was completely, from what I understand. I guess maybe somebody moved away that was the leader of the club, and it just kind of dissolved.
Okay.
So I got in my head. I was like, man, maybe I can just get a couple people together and just go out rucking and you know see what happens. And then all of a sudden, fast forward to the Sandlot Festival.
Okay.
So the first Sandlot Festival, and then I started meeting like all these other people. I was like, holy crap, there's like hundreds, if not thousands of people out here that are out here rucking.
Real quick, what is the Sandlot Festival for people that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah. So Sandlot Festival was a festival up in Jacksonville, just right outside of Go Ruck headquarters,
Okay.
that Jason and a bunch of people put together, and he had a bunch of speakers that were there. So like Roger Sparks, who's the one who created all the patches for Go Ruck
Okay.
for their tribe memberships, and then Michael Easter was there. A bunch of other just experts in health and fitness, which for me personally, I've never really gotten into that much, and I really was interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see a lot of these speakers and meet them. And then we went out on, just random people, just we'd all go out on a ruck for 3 miles or 5 miles. And then they had these Go Ruck events where it was like a basic event or a light event. And so I started doing these little events, and kind of like, very, cultish. I kind of got sucked right in
That's
to
awesome.
all of these cool things and meeting other people, and saw that there was a community actually around this. And it was really cool because not one time did anybody talk about politics.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cared who people's backgrounds were, where they were from. They were just like, if you can pick up this weight and you can walk with it and help us out, then you're in. And I was like, sweet. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely down for that.
That's great.
So started thinking about clubs when that happened. And I was like, I could really do this, and I can take this community feeling that I had from here and bring that back into the Orlando area. So started talking to a couple people that were also kind of, I saw on the Facebook page for the Central Florida Ruckers, people were like, hey, is anything going on? Is anything? I was like, there's a need for this, at least if it's only 5 of us
Yeah.
in all of Orlando. I was like, there's at least some of us here.
Yeah.
And it kind of filled that empty void that I had for during COVID of not having people to hang out with. And I was like, I can hang out with other people and we can get healthy all at the same time. So that's where I started coming up with different names and, talking to a couple other people about, hey, what do you think? And, we're just shooting off different ideas. And eventually, because I live just next to West Orange County, I came up with West Orange Ruckers. And, WOR, people are like, oh, it's war. We can just go to war every day. And I'm like,
Yeah,
whatever. I was like, sure. I was
that's
like,
awesome.
if that's the way you want to put it, then let's go. But yeah, so came up with that idea, and then it took a little while, man. It was it probably a year later, because at the second festival, I had an image in my head of what I wanted for the patch, because I always very professionally I wanted to be like, I need to have a patch before we start this club,
Hmm.
because everybody in the Go Ruck community and rucking community are just they're fiends over patches. They want patches.
Right.
So I was like, I have to have a patch if I'm going to get people to come out here. So I was thinking about, it's like, oh, we're in Orlando. It's like alligator heaven around here.
Right. Yeah.
And this little spot that we kind of based ourselves out of was an old orange community that used to grow oranges all the time. And then there's alligators all over the lake there. So I was like, we have to have an alligator. We have to have orange somewhere in this. So oddly enough, I went and took my family to SeaWorld one day, and I was wearing a Go Ruck shirt. And then I went and took my daughter was probably like 2 years old at the time. So I took her into the bathroom, come out, and on our way out, this guy goes, "Hey, weirdo." And I was like, "What?" I was like, weirdo is kind of like that term for ruckers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I see he's wearing a Go Ruck shirt too. And we're like, oh, you're wearing go. You do rucks and I do rucks. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, we're sitting in the men's bathroom with our little girls. I was like, let's go. Let's not talk here. Let's go talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get out of the. When you're out of the bathroom, I'll talk to you about.
Yeah, a more appropriate place. I'm thinking of like that Spider-Man meme where there's two Spider-Mans or three
Yes,
Spider-Mans pointing at each other,
absolutely,
except in a
absolutely.
bathroom.
Except we're in a bathroom with our daughters. Yeah, so very uncomfortable, but it made for a good story later in life.
Yeah.
Um, so Cliff was the gentleman there. I'll give him props because I gave him my idea, and which is what I do like with my tattoo artists. I'm like, hey, this is what I want. Can you draw it? Because I
Hmm.
suck at drawing.
Hmm.
And it just so happened to be he was a graphic design like artist.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, holy crap. I was like, God put you in my life for some reason, bro. I was like, so he immediately was like, can I be in your club? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, I'll do it for free.
Nice.
I was like, okay. So
Yeah.
he came up with that with the logo, and I was like, okay, this is it, man. And so we got it done. We got patches made. We got all kinds of stuff, and um, so then we had a club. It was just a few people at first, and then all of a sudden we were, people saw us walking around downtown in Winter Garden, where it's based out of, and more people started joining us, and we started going up to Go Ruck headquarters, and people started seeing our patches and everything like that, and they wanted to earn the patch. So I was like, well, you got to ruck with us, man. I was like, I can't just give it to you.
Yeah. What a cool story. What was the moment that you realized the club had become something special? Not just friends rucking, but sort of being shaped into a real community.
So the first year we started, um, my end game was always to do something good for the community, at whole, like just the Winter Garden community, the Orlando community, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
And there was a charity for looking for kids to they needed to give toys, like a Toys for Tots, but it was on a local basis. It wasn't just kind of giving stuff to the Salvation Army and you never, you don't know the effects that you do. But these families are all local within Central Florida that their children needed toys. So I was like, look, this is perfect. I was like, I'm going to come up with this, well, Cliff came up with a patch. He started being my go-to, like, I'm sure I annoyed the hell out of him going, hey man, I got this idea for a patch. And I
Yeah.
need you, can you draw this for, and he's like, he always says yes. So thankfully he's a great friend, but he's even a better, like just patch maker.
Awesome.
So, and So we came up with this idea that, hey, we can raise money through selling these patches, or if you donate toys, you can get a patch. So we went to there's a local donut shop here called DG Donuts that was like a Dropbox location for them.
Okay.
So I let them know. I was like, hey, we're gonna have probably like, I don't know, 50 people show up that were gonna bring toys, and they were gonna give out free donuts to everybody who brought a toy. So it was all this kind of cool little, everybody helps each other out type of deal. And I think the first year we definitely had 50, if not more. And then the second year, last year, we had almost 100 people show up to it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we had patches for each year, and it's but we raised, I mean, probably close to $1,000 between the toys and between money.
That's awesome.
That we just, 100% of it just went straight to the charity, and it was awesome because I know that, like I said, these kids that are going to be walking by us at any given time, like we helped them. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I think that's really when I knew we were something special.
Yeah, that's really cool that you're using the platform or community that you're building to give back to the community that you're living in. I think that's just so commendable. Congrats to you
Definitely.
and congrats to the club.
Thank
Um,
you.
I've looked at West Orange Ruckers Instagram account and seen that y'all do a lot of community events. I'm curious, outside of, that one event you just talked about with, raising money for the children, what have been some of your other favorite events over the years?
So we've also we did a cool ruck one time with, like, gosh, I'm gonna get it wrong, but like there's a guy that does things with like with dogs, like he trains dogs. Southern Cross,
Okay.
that's what they're called, Southern Cross, and they train dogs in order to hand them off to families with soldiers that have PTSD.
Okay.
And so they're locally here. And so I was like, dude, I get, in Florida, half of the year it's way too hot to bring puppies out, and get their toes burnt on the concrete.
Right.
But I was like, hey, anytime you want, I was like, let's get together and let's do like a ruck with the puppies so they can get training done. And then we just all come out as a community and stuff. So that was a really cool one where we just rucked with some puppies, and other people brought their dogs, and it was a cool little event. We had a barbecue afterwards
Cool.
that we
Yeah.
did that. And then, they raised money too. I was like, it's always been about like, hey, if you guys want, let's raise money for it. And then 100% just goes straight to whatever. So
Awesome. And
yep.
then it looks like you've done, I guess, meetups or, other community outreach with other ruck clubs in the area. I saw
Yes.
specifically Orlando Ruck Club, maybe. I'm curious, like, how did that begin? How did you start reaching out to other clubs, or did they start reaching out to you?
So originally, so kind of going back to where I was kind of, getting the idea of creating a ruck club. I really leaned on, at the time, this Ponte Vedra Ruck Club. At the time, they were called Knock Rucks.
Okay.
So Mike Schroeder, one of their leaders, reached out to me one time when I had some rucks stolen out of my car, and out of nowhere, I just told people, hey, heads up, if you see these out in the community, let me know, because if anybody knows what they are, what the real value of, these Go Ruck bags were, they'll hit you up on these little platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And he reached out to me and said, hey, come and ruck with us, and I'll give you some bags to replace them, which I thought was absolutely insane.
Wow.
That this guy I've never met before is doing something so kind for me.
Yeah.
And so I've really leaned on Mike a lot, where I was like, how did you build this club? I mean, they have 80 to 100 people, like, on any given moment going out on the rucks with them.
That's huge.
And it's insane. It's quite a sight to see. So, but so he was doing, a pup ruck. He was doing, a toy ruck as well. Like, they do a Christmas in July ruck. So where they kind of gather up all the toys to be prepared for later in the year. So he does all these amazing rucks for the community. And I was like, this is what I want. I was like, I want to give back. He was so kind just to me, and that little gesture was kind of like, look, I need to do step up for my community as well, in any way I can.
Yeah.
So whether it's, we get together with the local American Legion every year, and we do a ruck with them. They do a Challenge 22 ruck for veteran suicide awareness, where they get the whole community of Winter Garden. Like, everybody comes out and rucks.
That's awesome.
So they have a concert. They have all kinds of cool things, which is where we met Southern Cross. That's just, that was, like I said, that was the end game for me.
Yeah.
Is just giving back to the community, whether it's through health things, whether it's through mental health, and just, charities in general. So
That's really great. And so
yeah.
I'm curious, how many members are there in the West Orange Ruckers Ruck
Oh
Club?
Lord. I think Facebook members, I think we're over 400, but any given week it's different because we have different locations now
Mm-hmm.
and different people leading it. So we'll have 5 or 6 people come out for one ruck, another 10 people come out for a different ruck after that. So really actively, we're probably around like 20 or so,
Cool. Yeah.
normal active wise. I mean, I've had to take a step away from the club every now and then, just because of my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I recently had a new job in April, which is taking me all over the, southern United States every week. So
Gotcha.
I unfortunately get to miss out on a lot of rucks, but I think the way that I built this club was more of a choose your own adventure kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you want to come out in the morning, meet up with us at like 5:30 in the morning on Wednesday. If you want to come out at night, we're going to be meeting at night on Thursday, and we're going to ruck heavy. Bring out extra sandbags.
Yeah.
Sunday was more of a family. Bring your kids, bring your wife or husband, whoever, and we're just all going to walk type of deal. So it was
Gotcha.
a little bit of something for everybody.
So follow up to that, how are you finding new members, or how are you recruiting them these days?
So it's really just kind of organically. You start walking around and you're walking with American flag. People start taking notice of like, hey, what the heck are all these people doing
Sure.
with
Yeah.
bags or flak jackets on?
Yeah.
An American flag, you either get negative or positive results from it.
Right.
And
Also, what's in that bag?
yeah, exactly. So they kind of halfway think you're a militia or something. But we're just like, no, man. It's like, we're just out here exercising. You should join us. Because like, here, come walk with us and see. We just,
Mm-hmm.
And so some people do. Some people are like, oh yeah, well, look us up on Facebook. And, come and join us. It's like all we do is we just walk and make fun of each other half the time. So
Nice.
yeah.
And I'm super curious about your journey through creating this community and this rec club, because I think there are a lot more people thinking about starting a ruck club as rucking gains in popularity. So for people thinking about starting their own ruck club, let's learn from someone that's done it. So what's one mistake you made early on that you would advise other people avoid?
The first thing that I would say, and this is something I heard from Mike Schroeder in Ponte Vedra Ruck Club. He's like, this is like a part-time job. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
just so you know. And because they do, I think, like 2 rucks a week, and we were doing 3 a week.
Whoa.
And it really is a part-time job. So you have to don't do it by yourself. And when I say do it by yourself, I mean leading the club by
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Lean on other people, because things are going to happen, and you may not be able to go out. Like, you might get injured and you can't go out for the next week or month, depending on what's happening. And you almost feel like the club is just kind of, I never wanted it to dwindle away. Like, I felt like that club before me was
Mm-hmm.
there. And because I know it does do good for other people. And so you have to find those people you can lean on that can help lead the rucks for you. when you can't make it. Like I said, and if you're doing that many rucks, which, is another, thing I would say, maybe focus on one a week at most.
Yeah.
At first, until you find those people that want more, then put it on them to do it with you.
Cool.
So, hey, it's like I never, even though I'm the one who helped found the club, I've always been a very, big supporter of, I'm not the only leader of the club. I was like, if you want to go out on a Wednesday morning, then post it up on Facebook, post it somewhere, put it into the Sandlot app and just tell people where you're going to be at what time. And then people will come. It might be only 2 people or 3 people at first, but maybe that 1 or 2 people that show up really need it.
Yeah. That's really good advice. The amount of coordination I'm sure it takes to, find a place, find a route, and then recruit people to come with you. I could totally see how that's a part-time job. Absolutely. So I know you're a co-founder. So I think I saw you mention someone named Dave as the other co-founder.
So Dave was one of our original founders, and then this guy Doug. We were the first, I guess, the 3 who really kind of started it out.
Okay.
And then Cliff as well, because he was our patch guy, but he lives on the opposite side of Orlando, so it's hard for him to come out on this side of town. But he's always been like my dude in the background. That is, like, who's really running this place.
Cool. Yeah.
But so Dave was really instrumental when we first started, because he was involved, Doug as well. Like, they were very already involved in the community. Dave was like, he's a chiropractor, and he was going to all of these kind of different meetings for the community. Doug was doing the same thing. And so we got a write-up in one of the local magazines. Like a week later, we ended up getting a write-up in one of the local newspapers. And it was a great way. Like, a lot of people were, coming into the Ruck going, "Oh, I read about you guys in the magazine. I read about you in this." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Cool, that works."
Yeah.
I was like, "Awesome." So
any way to get the word out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so those 2 guys were super instrumental in helping facilitate all of that.
Very cool. So any advice for listeners that want to start their own club outside of the advice you just gave about having a co-founder?
I'd say if there are other clubs, don't be afraid to start your own. Because obviously we started, but Orlando, if anybody knows Orlando, you can drive an hour and still be in Orlando. We're a very big city. So, when Orlando Ruck Club, they started a few months after us. Mm-hmm. And then they had a big group going out with them, because they're like almost in the heart of downtown Orlando.
Oh, okay.
Sanford Ruck Club is just like another 15 minutes, 20 minutes north of Orlando. And they've got a huge group that goes out there. And we've got more, like, I think it's like 2 or 3 like Ocala or Brick City Ruckers. And there's a new one in Claremont that just started. So we came from nothing to now there's I think there's at least 5 Ruck clubs in the Orlando area.
Wow. That's wild. Yeah.
So if you were starting a Ruck club in this community with other Ruck clubs, lean on those guys or gals, lean on them and, partner with them. They're not competition. Don't get it stuck in your head like, oh, we've only got 5 people and they've got 50.
Sure.
Like, why is nobody? And don't worry about that. It's stuff in the long run. In the long run, it doesn't matter. If it makes you happy to go out and do this rucking with the 5 people you have, then count as a blessing that you have 5, core people that, they're your friends now. They're your family. So that you wouldn't have had before.
Yeah, they're kind of like a community within a community. That's really cool to see.
We are. And they're all, they're family to me. Those guys, we all work together on different things. We're like, hey, what are you going to do for this Ruck? What are you going to do? Are you going to do something for Christmas? Sanford Ruck Club, they're going to head up the toy drive, the toy Ruck this year.
Awesome.
So, which is great. It takes a lot of weight off because it takes a lot of planning and stuff. And it takes a lot of weight off my shoulders with me working so much. And so with this new job that I have, I mean, I work weekends, I work days. It's nuts. So it's,
Wow. Yeah,
any family time I have to take that family time. So,
absolutely. Yeah,
um,
that's ultimately at the end of the day, that's what's the most important for sure.
exactly.
More with Chad in just a moment, including how he adopts Michael Easter's 2% mindset into his and his family's lives. But I want to take a quick break to say thanks for listening to the podcast. Please text this episode to a fellow rucker that might find it interesting or a friend that could benefit from rucking. Sharing this episode would help the show grow and help more people improve their health and lives. Okay, back to it. Okay, so moving on to working fitness into your family life. You've done a lot of obstacle courses. You've already mentioned Savage races. I'm not familiar with Savage races, but I know of Tough Mudders. Is that sort of the same deal?
Yeah, it's a lot the same deal. I've done a lot of the different obstacle course races and mud races, and I just gravitated towards Savage Race. I think that's just, I've become friends with a lot of the folks that work there. And it's just part of, going back to community. They're the community that I like, is the Savage Race community.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, but I've gotten my kids into it now. So
Awesome.
it's, I've always wanted my kids to be outside. I kind of, on purpose made them a little feral. So,
Yeah.
I don't want them sitting at home all day just on a tablet or watching a movie or something like that. And it's so hard to get away from that because it's the easy thing to do when, a 3-year-old is screaming and you just like, you need some help. So, hey, here comes, the tablet to the rescue.
Yeah.
But really, I wanted them to go out and do fun stuff outside that, tested their fitness abilities, whether, they know what they are or not. But, seeing, hey, can you climb a little, 1-foot wall? Can you go underneath these things and have fun and jump in the mud and all these, fun little obstacles for kids? And my daughter did it when she was 2. She's almost 7 now. And she's done it every single year. She looks forward to doing Savage Race. My son he just turned 3 and he's already done it twice. He's done,
What? Nice.
Yeah, he did it when he was like a year and a half old. So I was pretty much carrying him from obstacle to obstacle.
So yeah, he was your ruck essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And then he did it all on his own last year. I mean, they're having so much fun, and
Awesome.
I think that's a cool, it's a cool family outing like that.
Agreed. It's a
So,
good way to bond and make memories with your family. And I totally agree. I think kids need to be outside. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of studies out of Norway or Sweden indicating that kids need to be outside learning. It does something with their executive functioning skills.
yep.
So we do the same with ours. We try to get them outside and, teach them about nature and get them to do a little bit of exercise, but that's really cool. It's really cool to hear that you're doing that with your kids.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about your mindset with rucking and your daily life. I've seen you rocking some 2% gear. And then I saw back in December 2024, you went on a reflection ruck. So I kind of want to start there. What is your intention with reflection rucks? I guess what are their purpose?
For me, it's my way of clearing my head for the year. Especially, I try and do it like probably twice a year where I just I don't have a time limit. I don't have, you know, a lot of times, we do these 3-mile rucks as a club because we have time. We have to get back to our families. We have jobs we have to go to.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
try and keep everything under an hour. So you're always kind of in the back of your head, you're like, okay, we need to speed this up, or,
Right.
what do I have to do after this ruck?
Right.
Where my kind of, reflection rucks are just like kind of tell my wife, like, hey, I'm going to go out, when the park opens at 8 o'clock, kind of go back to where it all started for me into the state park down the road, and just kind of go, hey, I'm gonna find a trail. I'm gonna get lost a little bit, and not even follow the maps that we have. So, I mean, I'll keep the map on my phone in my, my pocket just in case, it starts getting to be a time where I need to get out.
Right.
But,
In case you come across too many gators or something like that.
Exactly. Gators, bears, whatever. But, it's my time to just kind of go out and just think, what did I do right this year? What did I do wrong? What improvements do I need to make? And you can do this any time of the year, really. But it's nice and in Florida, you only have a month or two where it's somewhat nice and cool out. So it always ends up being around New Year's, right? So
yeah, that makes sense. I really like that. I think I might try to incorporate that into my end of the year sort of activities. That's a really good idea. I'm gonna adopt that.
Yeah.
And now going back to the 2% gear you're rocking.
Yes.
For listeners that are not aware, can you briefly describe that?
Yeah. So it was, in my mind, it started by Michael Easter. So he is an author for The Comfort Crisis, which is a book about being, a 2%er, getting uncomfortable. So for those that don't know, if you see 2% on someone's hat or something like that, or a shirt, what it means is, I guess there were studies that were done that when given the option of doing something comfortable, that 98% of everybody will take the more comfortable position. So think of, what Michael Easter will say. Think about when you're in an airport and you see this long line of people waiting to get up the escalator, especially like places like Atlanta and stuff, where people will wait in line to take the more comfortable way up the escalator and not have to move their bodies, where you can just take the stairs and you'll be up there and you'll get to the top before anybody on that escalator was there, and then you'll be done. Plus you got to do some exercise.
Yeah.
And that only 2% of people will do that. And so wearing that 2% hat or a sticker or something for me is kind of a reminder. One is that when I'm in the airport and I'm wearing a 2% hat, I can't be the jerk and take the escalator. It reminds me, hey, you need to take the stairs, bro.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how tired you are. You need to take these stairs because someone's looking at you on an escalator wearing a 2% hat. And then
there's some accountability there for sure.
Absolutely. It's my personal accountability.
So what are some of your other habits that you've developed through adopting the 2% mindset? I know in Comfort Crisis, I think he mentions, parking further away to an entrance. That's something that I'll do when I go to the grocery store, and I kind of force myself to grocery shop without a basket. Although that's difficult at Costco when you're buying like bulk things and you're like chuckling stuff to check out. But hey, you still do it. But
exactly.
What are you implementing into your daily routine?
Well, it's definitely the parking bit I will do. And not even for that. It's just, in Florida, you need to find a place with a shade, and that's usually in the back of the parking lot.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'll definitely park further away to walk, kind of get in those steps. So I always have my Garmin telling me what my steps are and how many more I need to get. So I usually try and hit my step goal for the day.
Cool.
But that definitely helps. And then I implement it into really my family life with the kids, especially. They don't know it. I mean, obviously, they're not going to understand what 2% means, but I give them the choice, I guess you could say, of taking a harder route.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So we live very close to Disney. My wife works for Disney, and I will do like, a day at the parks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're at that age, especially, my son who's 3, where we're weaning him out of the stroller for the most part. And so we'll make him walk most of the time in the parks. Or, like my daughter who wishes she could still be in the stroller, will have to walk the entire time.
Gotcha.
So, but we take we have, in my head, I go, yes, you're going to have to walk all day. But we also have our, hey, you're sitting down for this. You're sitting down for that. We've got a 20-minute show we're going to go watch in the air conditioner. You have a way of recovering. So we're not completely abusing our children out in the heat.
No, yeah,
You
of
know?
course. That's really cool. Have they ever surprised you and just done something that was sort of a little more uncomfortable than a different option, like maybe like carrying their own backpack or something like
Yes,
that?
every day. Every day they do that. So my son is obsessed with wearing a backpack now.
That's that's
You know,
great.
he'll throw a little stuffed animal or a book in it or something like that and just walk around the house. He's like, "I'm a ruck like you, Daddy. I'm a ruck." I'm
That's
like,
awesome. That's
yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
So in little things like that, I'm like, okay, this is definitely helping with that. And I have a push-up competition with him during if we're watching a movie. I'll be like, hey, if you want to watch this, we got to do 15 push-ups, buddy.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool.
So, or during commercial breaks, I'm like, hey, let's go do some squats. Let's do some push-ups.
Cool.
So
Now, going back to the comfort crisis, Michael Easter talks about misogis. Do you do any misogis yourself?
So my Masogi, I try and do my one a year.
Hmm.
So this year I haven't had a chance to yet, just because I've had some injuries this year that stopped me from doing some things. But the year before, my Masogi was really doing a Go Ruck Tough,
Okay.
where I've done a lot of basics. I've done a lot of for those that don't know, it's kind of like a kind of timed event where if I say we're doing a basic, we're rucking for 6 hours and we're doing little workouts like military style workouts along the way for 6 hours or so. And for a tough, we're doing it for 10 to 12 hours where you're putting in upwards of 15 miles in that time, plus you're working out and doing horrible amount of burpees and lifting heavy 80 100-pound sandbags, and it's a big team workout thing.
Hmm.
But mine was really doing that tough last year, and it
Cool.
was in the middle of the summer, in Florida.
Yikes. 100-degree weather, probably.
Absolutely, with not a single bit of shade the entire time.
90% humidity.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So doing that was really my Masogi. It was my thing of, mentally, can I finish this?
I see.
And figuring out, that whole 50-50 chance of making it, which,
Yeah.
I knew that I could, if I just, mentally could dial in, I could do it, which I was able to. And it was a great time.
Nice. Well, congrats to
So
you. That's
yeah.
awesome. And sorry to hear about the injuries, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'm getting old, man. I'm
I hear
really
you.
I'm getting old.
I hear you.
So
I saw my rheumatologist today, and I've got a bum knee, so you don't have to remind me that we're all
yeah.
aging. Um,
Yeah.
well, I think this has been such a fantastic conversation, Chad. We're gonna go ahead and get to the last bit of questions, but before doing that, I just want to say thanks again for coming on. I've really enjoyed this conversation. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Where can people follow your club and maybe even join a ruck with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So look up West Orange Ruckers. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So either one of
Okay,
those, West Orange
good
Ruckers.
deal. I'll put a link in the show notes too. All right, so let's move into the rapid fire round. We kind of do this with every episode, just a few questions and quick answers. So
Yeah.
if you don't mind, what was your first rucksack when you started rucking?
Oh, I had a Rucker 3.0, with the Go Ruck logo written like all the way across it.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. If you could only ruck one trail for the rest of your life, what trail would that be?
I'm actually going to ruck it this weekend. I'm going up to Lake Lure in Chimney Rock, and there is a nice trail along the top of Chimney Rock that goes over waterfalls and everything. And I'm going to go ruck that this weekend. So
Wow, that's awesome. That does not sound like Florida. Where is that?
no, it's so right in I say the mountains of North Carolina. Most people say the foothills, but if you're in
Gotcha.
Florida,
It's all
anything.
relative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
What?
but yeah, it's right outside of Lake Lore, kind of an hour outside of Asheville.
Awesome. Okay. What's your favorite non-rucking workout?
I would say It's kind of a workout. I would say surfing, man. I love surfing.
Nice.
Absolutely love it.
What do you listen to when you ruck?
I listen to music. I know podcasts just, I start getting in my head about other things. I love listening to music. Lately I've been listening to a band called the Callous Dowboys. A lot of heavy music. I like to listen to a lot of heavy, hardcore music.
Yeah, I kind of get your heart rate going. I could totally see that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Last question. What is your bucket list rucking trail?
I would say I did this kind of trail over in Oahu where you go up to Diamond Head, but I did it without rucking. I would like to go back and actually ruck to Diamond Head in Hawaii.
Cool. Yeah, I think you're the second one to say Hawaii has a rucking trail that they'd like to do on their bucket list. I think, the founder of Ruckwell, that Chris Hayes, I think that was his as well.
Yeah, it was a really cool hike. I just like to do it with a ruck. And then they also have is it Cocoa Head? I'm probably getting this wrong, and everybody in Hawaii is screaming at me right now. There's one, it's like the staircase that just goes straight up the mountain. It's just one straight. I think it's Cocoa Head, but I don't know.
Gotcha. Put your knee braces on for that one.
Oh yeah.
Well, Chad, again, really appreciate your time, and good luck with the rest of your endeavors with your Ruck Club, man. Really, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps up my conversation with Chad. You can connect with him and West Orange Ruckers on Instagram at West Orange Ruckers. I'll drop the link in the show notes. If you want to reach out to me, head on over to theruckersedge.com or on Instagram at theruckersedgepod. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow or subscribe to The Rucker's Edge so you're notified of new episodes. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of The Rucker's Edge.